You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to Achtung Millwall, number one Millwall podcast. Before we begin today's review of yesterday's 1-1 draw up there at Preston, I just wanted to begin with my own very short and personal tribute, I suppose, to a true great, a true legend. That's a word that's overused in the modern football, modern sport, modern world. But Bobby Charlton passed away yesterday, and I just wanted to pay my own tributes, as pretentious as that might sound on a Millwall podcast. But he was a truly major figure in the game, a European Cup winner, of course, in the mid-60s with the great Manchester United team of George Best and Dennis Law, Alex Stepney in goal. And then went on to win the World Cup. Actually won the World Cup before he won the European Cup, 1966 World Cup, European Cup 1967. Bobby Charlton was a giant of the game, one of the few opposing managers, along with his brother Jack, strangely, ever to be applauded onto the pitch at Coldblow Lane. I remember in the early 1970s he was managing, not terribly successfully in truth, as Preston's manager. And he came to Coldblow Lane with a team that was underperforming. I think they got relegated in this particular season. It would be in the about 73, 74-ish, 75 perhaps. And he was applauded by the stadium as he came out with along the side by the seats at Coldblow Lane. He drew a round of applause, and people were murmuring their approval of Bobby Charlton. And I'd not seen that previously. I was only 14, 15-ish or something like that. So no great experience of life at Millwall. And oddly, a couple of days later, Jack Charlton, managing Middlesbrough, more successful manager, I think they won promotion that season, was also applauded onto the pitch. The only other person I've ever seen or known be applauded by Millwall fans onto the pitch in the opposition was Brian Clough. So that's high company to keep, dear listeners. So I just wanted to begin today's show with an acknowledgement and a thanks for the life of Bobby Charlton, Sir Bobby Charlton. I know this is a Millwall show, but sometimes some people transcend, as we saw back then in the early 70s, they transcend our own parochial, world that we live in. So anyway, on to today's show, dear listeners. Now, we begin every show, as you know, with our punditgames.co.uk question. This is a World Cup question for you, dear listeners. This is a brilliant, tiny Brazilian who played at the 1994 and 1998 World Cups. He scored against the Dutch in a classic game. That he played for Deportivo La Coruña, and was joined by Mazzino and Romario as the trio formed the cradle with their hands, doing that baby rocking thing. Mazzino, Romario and Mr. X. He played in a famous quarter-final where Brazil beat the Netherlands 3-2, alongside Romario up front. A small Brazilian. I'm going to give you the answer straight away this week, because I've got another question, a more obscure question. Punditgames.co.uk is a great board game. You answer questions on different genres of football. The World Cup one is the one that we're picking one from. I'm going to close out with I always find it quite hard, a Football League question to close us. But I'm going to give you the answer to that. So Mazzino, Romario playing for that 1994 Brazilian side. They would win it, of course, in a shootout in the final in the USA. Who was Mr. X? It was Bebeto. And there you have it. So do check out for more questions like that on that level, and some fairly tough ones as well. Go to punditgames.co.uk, select the Millwall drop down, and the Lions Food Hub get a little bumpsy every time we sell a game. So Christmas is coming, birthdays are coming, just regular board game afternoons are coming. So it's a great board game, as I say. Now then, dear listeners, we are speaking today in the aftermath of a not bad, I think I'll probably say it's a not bad 1-1 draw up there at Deepdale yesterday. Just looking at my notes from yesterday, you've got the Mill lineup. There's Bart in goal, back line, Murray Wallace, Jake Cooper, Wes Harding. In the wing-back positions, Norton Cuffy and Joe Bryan. Midfield, we've got Denor and Alan Campbell. In front of them, Zian Fleming, Tom Bradshaw and Idemo Marku. Pretty much a Gary Rowett setup. Not that you could expect much else in the first early tentative days of the world after Gary Rowett. Taken yesterday, of course, by Adam Barrett, who is a candidate for the Millwall management. I originally intended to go to yesterday's game when it was an afternoon kick-off. I managed to reschedule the train to the morning when Sky TV selected it for TV broadcast. But then what with the storm, what's it called? Babette? Not Babetto. Storm, whatever it was. One of the trains got cancelled, so I managed to get a refund and watched it on the telly instead. Call me real Millwall, but well done indeed to the 696 that did travel up to Lancashire yesterday in difficult circumstances. But we're going to take you now over to a conversation I had yesterday evening with our northern correspondent, long time no speak, to John Shipman. So let's go over and speak to John now about yesterday's game.
Achtung, Millwall.
Next up on the show is a huge welcome. I haven't spoken to him for a long time. It's our northern correspondent. It's Mr. John Shipman. How are you, John?
Evening, Nick. Evening, all. Very good, thank you. Good to see you again.
Yes, likewise, mate. I mean, you were at Deepdale this afternoon. Preston 1, Millwall 1. A strange game, John, really, wasn't it? It's a game of two halves, I thought, watching on Sky Television. Not a bad first half after a nightmare start in the first period, but the second half we're a little bit under the cosh, mate. How did you see things up there?
Yeah, you say that about the second half. I don't remember us being massively under pressure. I don't think Bart had to pull off any sort of world-class saves, anything like that.
No.
Two teams playing in front of each other was what I saw. But first off, I found pretty entertaining, actually. No great clear-cut chances, but a fantastic goal from Fleming, who's doing Bermondsey Burkamp things again. But at 1-0, the goal in the first couple of minutes, we kind of let her walk right through us, and I sort of looked at my son and thought, well, how long do we? What's our fallback position? Do we get the 3-0 or give this a miss? Or it really looked like we were in for a hiding.
Yeah.
But we came back really well, which was fantastic to see, particularly in the circumstances the players find themselves in at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the obvious listeners, we're obviously in that kind of between managers period. Who knows where Adam Barrett will sit in the thinking of the club? Today was his big chance to impress. I don't think he did that badly. I think he was. I mean, you're picking up all different stories as to the circumstances, John, as to how Rowett left. I mean, the club statement seemed to imply that this was by mutual agreement. But it does seem to have come rather suddenly, and I think Adam, speaking before the game, said it came as a shock. So, to all practical purposes, he's had Thursday and Friday to pick up the pieces and to take a team to Preston. So I think he did quite well, really, even though, as some have said online, he's a Gary Rowett show, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else he could have done in that short space of time, to be truthful.
He's got to throw them all, isn't it? It's good. As much as, they're familiar with Barrett, they're familiar with other Paul Robinson, it's got to throw them. And it must have been Rowett's choice, this. There's no two ways about that, because if we had any say of it, it would surely have been done at the start of the international break, not the end of it. Give ourselves a couple of weeks to find a new gaffer. So I think it must have been Rowett's choice in the main, or at least he was the instigator of it. I get the impression we probably didn't resist too much.
No,
but what could Barrett realistically be expected to do? He wasn't going to change it in 2 days. It was going to be pretty much a tried and tested game plan, which they've probably been working on for the week leading up to Rowett's departure. So wasn't expecting to see too much different. I don't know about other people, but I was quite surprised to see Demarcu start rather than Essie. With that option, I thought we'd have gone down the Essie route. But I've got to say, after watching him today, very impressed. Really liked Demarcu.
I really liked it. I thought he showed some really strong touches. I mean, just going back to Adam Barrett for a moment, I agree. Very short order to take up the cudgels of being manager, and I think that desire to stick with a tried and tested game plan to some extent answers the question that you see online as to why George Savile still sat on the bench rather than maybe Alan Campbell, who I don't think is that bad, but I don't know what he's got that George Savile doesn't bring. And I must admit, when Preston ran through the centre of our defence like it wasn't there, I thought, well, that probably wasn't such a great choice, because at least Saville does bring some on-field leadership, and then maybe that would have happened, maybe it wouldn't. But
I find the
you
Saville
know,
situation an odd one, Nick. He looks to all the world a better prospect than Adam Campbell in the middle.
yeah, yeah,
He's got goals amongst him as well, as he's shown that this year as well. I
yeah.
I do wonder if there's anything in the contract that says he has to start while he's with us.
I mean, if that's true, I mean, I thought the same, and if that's true, John, I'd say it's shocking, because you're not making your best choice then, are you? You're bringing a player in that isn't. Well, I wouldn't choose him over George
You
Saville.
think it's unlikely? I'd be surprised
Yeah,
if it was the case. But what I found really odd was when on about 80 minutes we brought on Billy Mitchell rather than Sav.
yeah, yeah,
For
yeah,
me, Sav gives you the option to sit back and defend. He can do that, but also go for that late winner, as he showed at Plymouth the other week. So
yeah.
slightly surprised to see him down the pecking order to that extent.
You don't know what gets said, and you don't know what issues, if there are any issues that are behind closed doors, the dressing room doors. So who knows? I found those two choices odd. And I must admit, when that opening goal went in, which was way, way, way too easily scored, John. I mean, I must have thought, I thought we're in for a hiding today. We're going to get pasted. And they had a couple of moments after that where shots were going in on us. But after that, we largely took control. That's to the team's credit, and it's to Adam Barrett's credit, because that was a difficult situation. They played their way out of it.
And very much for me as well, to Marku's credit.
Yeah,
He's okay. So he hasn't scored, and he missed a bit of a sitter the other week against. No, well, not a sitter. That's a little bit harsh, but he panicked a little bit. He snatched at one the other week against Hull, and he was
yeah,
reasonably well through. So he's a young kid. He's got to add that to his game, and the goal scoring may come a little bit later. But what he did offer us was he was rapid. He was on the shoulder of the
yeah,
last defender. He loosely hit the bar. He sort of hit the defender. There was a couple of deflections and it ended up on the bar.
yeah.
But there were a couple of attacks where, one, he sort of got away from him and created an opportunity, and two, he was dragged down in the process of running away from him. And that's invaluable. It just that itself, if you can get past the last man, you get dragged down. Well, you're potentially taking someone out of the game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he really impressed me. I really liked watching him today, and his attitude was
I
spot
agree.
on. The way he was interacting with the crowd at the end, and
Yeah,
it fell short a little bit because of the injury. He picked up an injury, and I'm hoping it isn't too bad, because I really like what I saw. He did more for me in the sort of hour that I saw him today than Nisbet's done in the games that I've seen from Nisbet this season. So
yeah. No, it was quite a contrast. He's a skillful player, as well as the obvious power and pace and all the rest of it. But I agree. I suppose I'd sum it up. He's a hungry player. I mean, he had a couple of opportunities where he shot, and maybe the ball was inside. I think there was one break where Bradshaw was with him, and he was screaming for the ball when the youngster's taking the shot. And I think that will come with a bit of experience, a couple of starts. He'll start to get that nous that you need
yeah,
at this level. But he's desperate to get that goal, and I can't blame him for that, John. He's a young man, and he wants to establish his name. So
and
um,
it's good for all of us if it can get that first one. Who knows where he goes from there? He might go on a bit of a run and become the first choice, because he certainly changed the sort of dimension of that attack today. Whereas normally we ump it forward to Bradshaw and hope he can hold it up. There was another option today, and it was a bit of pace in behind, which was really exciting to see
yeah,
at times.
oh, it's refreshing. I think the hunger is refreshing. I make you right about SA. I mean, whether you play one or the other, or whether they both can be found a spot in the starting 11, I don't know. I was speaking to the Southwark News journalist yesterday, asking for some reaction in the aftermath of Gary Rowett going this week, and I can't remember how I put it now, but I can't imagine other clubs, many other clubs in our division, having two talents like Roman Esse, who's one of the best I've seen in a long time. I don't know if you'd go with that, but he's certainly one of the best talents that I've seen in a Mill shirt for many years, going back to maybe the kind of Cahill era, or some players at that level. other clubs will be playing them, and why are they sitting on the bench and not finding time in on pitch time is one of the more damning indictments of Gary Rowett in a way, because he seemed to be very reluctant to play Imaku and remain SA.
I think we're slightly over resourced in midfield, possibly under resourced elsewhere. So we've seen teams in the past where we've been crying out for someone to come in, and Essie would probably come in. I think this time round we got a number of options in midfield, and so it's harder for him to break into the side. As you say, maybe that's it. It felt this season like the recruitment was a little bit lopsided. I think
skew with.
We could have done with a centre back or two, for my mind. But the players he's brought in have by and large done well, so I can't knock him for that. But it does mean that opportunities perhaps for SA are a little bit limited to coming on at that sort of 80th minute time and trying to change a game, rather than a desperation start, which is where young players often come to the fore, isn't it? Where you've got no other option, you have to stick them in.
I thought we played some beautiful passing movements, actually. Not often I've been able to say that for Millwall. Some of the ball, the kind of ground play in that first half, leading up to the goal, which we'll come on to. But I thought we actually, even the goal itself was a beautiful pass. I think it was Denor put it through to.
He's a player as well,
Fleming,
Nick. He's a player.
He's threaded the eye of the needle, John. I mean, how we worked that, I don't know, but it was beautifully done.
I really like Denor out. I'm struggling to think of an equivalent player we've had over the years, but he seems to be able to defend really well. When you talk about the passing, I don't see him give it away. And that must therefore breed the confidence around the other players that you can knock it about a bit, because he's not going to give it away cheaply. It wasn't one of his better games today.
He had a quiet game. Sanders, but that was a beautiful threaded pass.
Yeah, absolutely. He's another one. If he can get a goal, I think he'll be well off and running as well. He can add that to his game as well. Then we've got a real talent there, a real find. So I think he did fantastically well. And as you say, that threaded ball through ball to Fleming was fantastic. And let's not hide from the fact that Fleming had to do an awful lot to convert that as well. There's a turn of the defender and a fantastic shot.
The thing of beauty, the goal, it was Fleming back to what we hoped for last season. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but there did seem to be a lightness of play today that wasn't there with the I don't know if it's the dead hand of Gary Rowett on the sideline, but it was good to see Fleming being prepared to play to his strengths there, and that was a beautiful goal. So it was quite interesting listening to the Sky TV. You wouldn't have heard it being there, but they said towards the end of the first half that Millwall were dominating Preston, whereas obviously in the opening minutes they were the other way round, and it was Don Goodman who was always very happy when Millwall were on the back foot, but they grudgingly had to acknowledge that we were dominating Ryan Lowe's side. They were talking about Ryan Lowe, John, as though he's some kind of football philosopher, like a Socrates of soccer almost, like he was some kind of higher. His mind was higher than those around him, and a lot of time was spent on him. The fact he was taking notes, this was seen as something deep. Like
that's
might take notes. So would Ryan Lowe.
Quite remarkable. Don Goodman's, I'd imagine he has to put his Lions card away after he's number one, isn't he? He's got membership number one at the Den. He's
honorary member of Harry's.
He's not keen on us, Don Goodman. I think they probably got that right. I think towards the certainly the latter part of that first half, we were all over them. Created a couple of chances on another day, as we say. Marku scores because there was a couple of deflections in that one. But second half, it just fell a little bit flat. We had an early chance. I think it was Campbell.
Campbell, he had a go. It was lacked power. The goalkeeper. Pretty much after the kickoff. After that, though, we were a bit on the back foot But you're right. The caveat with what I'm saying, because we were on the back foot. There was a lot of possession for Preston. They showed a statistic in the 67th minute saying that the last 10 minutes, so 57 to 67, the possession had been 86% for Preston and 14% therefore for Millwall. So they were kind of getting a bit excited that the momentum of the game had switched to Preston. But There weren't many clear-cut chances, really, and you're right. I don't recall Bart having to do an awful lot. Probably until very late. There was a great block by Murray Wallace at the death. They were going down the wing, and ball came in. That was in a dangerous position because they brought Ched Evans on, and he was starting to make his impact. Felt a little bit, but largely speaking, nothing clear-cut really for Preston in that second half.
I remember Bart parrying one. A guy went clean through the middle and he parried one that was shot
Yeah,
straight at him. But I can't remember exactly when that was. But you say about that they had 10 minutes of 90% possession or whatever the
strong
statistic was. But
possession. Yeah,
I don't remember feeling nervous. We seem to have everything covered. If they want to have a possession in front of us, then kind of let them have it, and we'll try and hit them on the break, sort of thing. There is this fashion at the minute for playing out from the back, and the keeper passing to the Hull were very much doing
they're
that
keen
last
on it.
week,
Yeah,
or the week before, and Preston were doing a little bit of that. And if you can press them, as Bradshaw's really good as doing, there was a couple of chances created from that. So if they want to have
yeah.
possession in that area, then help yourself. It's not going to do us any damage from there.
No, that was last year. There was. I've just written towards the end of the game that the great import was given to whether Ryan Lowe was standing up or sitting down. If he was sitting down, he was happy with the way that the team were playing. And there was one point where he was standing up, so he was unhappy. This is like it's like when they vote for a pope, you get black smoke or white smoke. Great import is given to whether he's standing or sitting down. Anyway, there it was. Late chance for Preston Murray Wallace. It's actually great defending. He took it away
Yes,
from the player
actually,
near
you
post.
mentioned Murray Wallace. He's had a bit of stick this year. He hasn't been at his
Yeah,
best, but actually today I thought he played very well. Murray Wallace, I think he was solid throughout. So noting
I
dispatches
agree.
for Murray Wallace, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. The only, I suppose, if I was being, it's a difficult one for Adam Barrett. He's been, he's filling the post at the moment. Some of our set pieces need work. I mean, we obviously aim for Jake Cooper. The world and its wife knows that he's our weapon, but we don't seem to have anything other than aim it at Jake Cooper. I think that's an area that whoever comes in will be looking to work on because we're ineffective a lot of the time from dead balls at the moment.
What throws me about that is every corner, every set piece, he's got two or three on him, and they're holding him down and ripping his shirt off and all the rest of it. We see it week in, week out. We never get a penalty, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I missed some sort of change in the rules that they're going to be lenient about this, but
The Jake
yeah,
Cooper clause or something. I don't
Cooper
know.
clause, yeah. He can't buy a penalty, and I
No,
can't help but
no.
think that under a kind of you think back to maybe a Wise era where the dark arts were very much part of our side.
Mm.
Surely there's a way to milk that to some extent so that the referee has no choice but to give something there.
Well, there was a screenshot someone put on earlier on X. We mustn't call it Twitter; it's X. But they had about 4 or 5 players, white shirts, surrounding Jake Cooper. Well, that must logically mean there's space elsewhere for
Somewhere
others
else,
to
yeah.
come in. We don't seem at the moment, and I'm expecting it to change. Whether it's Adam Barrett that gets the job or some of the others, and we'll come on to those in a moment, John. But um, we have to improve on that because some of the crosses being put in were pretty good. I wanted to mention Joe Bryan actually because he shows some really strong, a Cruyff turn at one point. It was most unexpected in his position, but he's a good, classy player. And we've mentioned him, Mark, we've mentioned obviously Zian and Murray Wallace, but he was the other man I noted down as having some good moments today. I quite like Joe Bryan. I think he's really improved the quality of our crossing. So yeah, just wanted to give him a mention. Who would you go with your man of the match overall? Who would you choose?
I think I'm going to go for Marku, just because he
Okay.
got me off my seat from time to time, and he was
Yeah.
exciting to watch. And I'm not saying he's a finished product. You can look at it cynically and say, well, he's had a couple of good chances in a couple of games and he hasn't converted. But he, he looked good to me today. Gave us another dimension that was something a little bit different than if it was Nisbet and Bradazan.
Yeah. I found it quite hard to pick one person actually. Imarku was one of my candidates. Zian, obviously, with a goal which was beautifully taken, and Murray Wallace for his solidity. But I mean, really, it's quite hard to pick. But I think I'll go with Imarku actually on balance, just because just because I want to, listeners. I think it was nice to see a youngster coming into the side and looking so eager and hungry, and that's something that we can all go with. The managerial situation, I'll let you go. I just wanted to get your take on it. I mean, I was looking at the betting yesterday, talking to Neil. Kevin Muscat seems to be favourite. I haven't checked today's websites, listeners, so I'm going with yesterday's. Kevin Muscat 6-4, and then Michael Beale and John Eustace at 4-1 seem to be the three strongest candidates. Muscat, the player, I was saying this the other day. Obviously, there's the obvious physicality of Muscat, the player, and his disciplinary record, blah blah blah. But he was actually a very, very good player, John. And from what I've read, his sides are possession sides, which is an interesting angle that I wouldn't have expected to be able to say. So I find him quite an interesting character the more I think about him. How do you see it? I'm
glad it's not me making the decision, because I wouldn't fancy doing that. Short of getting Alf Ramsey, and I don't know where to start. It's there's no one particularly inspiring on that list, is there?
No.
And I did think on the way that, if we had lost today, and the teams around us have won, and we're sort of closer to that bottom three, then you've got that panic decision. And if you're panicking, then maybe you're looking at a Warnock. Dated appointment. The closer we can, the better Adam Barrett holds the fort, and I think Barrett is just holding the fort. In all honesty, if we're serious of it, then the longer he can do that, the more time and perhaps gamble they might take onto the next guy. Because what we know for sure is Kevin Muscat isn't going to come in knowing the championship inside out and knowing how to go and get a point at Preston. He's not analysed their side, and that'll be throughout the season. So he's an interesting one. But there's pros and cons with all of them, Nick. And I'm not.
His inexperience is his main downside. And it's one thing to. I mean, he was working with Ange Postecoglou, apparently in Australia and in Japan. So that's to his. But the mere fact you've worked with someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be brilliant yourself. So, but I make you right, John. I mean, most of the other names: Beale, Eustace, Adam Barrett, Nathan Jones, Mark Kennett, they don't really turn me on. I mean, they're so. So I'm glad I'm not making a decision either, mate. Because it's a weighty one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's one that we often get wrong, particularly when we come out of a period of stability. So after the jacket years, we went through a few managers trying to find the right one. Harris we got very lucky with, because Rowett come in at that point and it was able to continue. But what Rowett has done, to his immense credit, is he's made us a average mid-table championship side, and it's hard to then improve on that with some of the names that I'm seeing now. It's a tricky one. You've got to bring someone in who can take that on. That would be the intention. It's not like we're bringing someone in. We're not QPR, we're not Rotherham, we're not Sheffield Wednesday. We're not trying to find a great escape artist. We're trying to find someone to move the club along a little bit, and I'm not sure I'm seeing that in the names that are in that list, the bookies list.
No.
So I wouldn't fancy making that appointment myself.
Apparently, we're going to be working on this next week. So we've got another game at home on Tuesday night to Blackburn. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. John, thank you for joining me on your Saturday evening. I really appreciate it, mate. It's good to talk to you again.
Very welcome.
Thank you to you too, dear listeners. We're probably going to switch over now to a couple of the voicemails that have been sent in to me. So big thank you to everyone for sending the stuff in. And we'll be back after that.
Hello.
Morning, Nick. Avid listener, first time messenger. Rob Abbott here from Dublin. A good point yesterday. I think we were a good value for it. First 10 minutes was very poor. The goal you can see I thought was schoolboy defending, just letting the guy drift in from the right, just carrying the ball too far. Then a couple of small passes in the box before a nice finish by the Preston guy, and then there was another moment not long after where they just carved us open straight down the middle. We backed off and Bart made a good save, but apart from that I don't think Bart had anything else to deal with for the rest of the day. We grew into the game. Amaku was a threat, and then obviously the goal came. It was actually a good team goal, and then a great turn by Denora, showed intent, played forward. Campbell, nice little touch, and then a world-class finish. And wow, the confidence from the goal. We looked at a quality outfit for 25 minutes, albeit we didn't create that chance to go 2-1 up at the break. Second half, I thought the first 25 minutes of the second half was even, but we were giving it a go. We were a threat, but yeah, as soon as Amaku went off injured, we sort of went into our shell, and we played more long ball style. Longman come on and played more central next to Bradshaw, and neither of them could unfortunately hold the ball up. But yeah, overall a good point for the week that's been in it. I thought the defence bar the start was solid. Good to see Murray Wallace have a good game. Wes Harding, I'm a big fan of. I like him defensively, and I like how he can carry the ball forward, joins in the attack. Cooper was okay. Brian was very good. Norton Cuffey I thought was very good, albeit sometimes runs up blind alleys, but he put a few good balls in, but no one was there. And he's only young. He's going to be a little bit inconsistent. Campbell, bit of an enigma, isn't he? I think 90% of the crowd wants Saville in there, and so do I. Denore, I think, is a quality addition. Fleming was okay, nice goal. Part 2, sorry about part 1, Nick, cutting out. But yeah, Fleming overall I thought had a very good game, was involved in a lot of our play going forward. Hopefully he can come back to the form that we know he's capable of, and be just more consistent, because yeah, since January this year really, he's been in and out of games too much for the quality he has. Bradshaw, as per usual, worked his socks off, didn't have any chances to put away. And look, the subs, Mitchell did what he had to do when he came on, and Longman was played centrally, and the ball was hit long to him, so didn't really get on the ball. He couldn't hold the ball up, but I think that's the last 20 minutes when Amaku went off, that's when we were settled for a point, unless we could just get that counter-attack goal. But yeah, on the ball, I didn't think we showed much intent. Just cleared it, etc. But look, overall, give Adam Barrett some credit, and credit to the players. Really good point. No surprise he went with a back 5, and I think a good point will be an excellent point if we can turn our home form around and get 3 points against Blackburn on Tuesday night. In the long run, would I like to see Adam Barrett as our main manager? No. I give him credit though, he's been involved in the club for a long time now, and he's been part of the reason under Rowett and Harris why we're now an established and comfortable championship club. Does he stay in the backroom staff? Well, that would depend on if the new manager, in my opinion, sees value in Barrett himself and what he can bring to the manager's team and the overall team. So it'd be interesting to see. Manager for me, I'd love to see Muscat come in. He's done well in Australia, done well in Japan. Other ones, maybe John Eustace. I know Scott Parker's branded around. Great record in this league, but obviously West Ham connections wouldn't like it. But we shall see. Thanks very much for everything. Keep up the good work. Love listening to the show.
Big thank you, Rob, in Dublin. Big shout out to our Irish listenership, actually. We get quite a few listeners across the water, which is always good. One of the things that never ceases to fascinate me doing this podcast. I'm still of an era where I get a bit amazed by what the internet can do, listeners. I'm that old. So it always fascinates me that people listen to us in far-flung places. So I'm not saying Ireland is particularly far-flung compared with, Australia or the like, but it's always interesting to get contacts from people around the world. So big thank you to Rob. Incidentally, listeners, if you want to take part in the show, you're very, very welcome to send me voice notes. If you go onto Twitter, X, and send me a direct message, there's a little sound symbol in the bottom of a direct message, and you can record on that, and it'll send the message straight over to me. Just press it, and I think you have to keep your finger on it whilst it records. But on post-match reaction, day-to-day events, whatever you want to tell me, really, it's always good to get to hear from people. and I really enjoy these voicemail sections, and you can probably tell because I try to include everyone that sends me a message. Now I don't know if we get so many that we have to do a separate show. Well, so be it. But I do try to include everybody on the show when they contact me. So big thank you to Rob there. I'm just looking at the table in the aftermath of that point. I do agree it was a good point yesterday, Rob. Not an easy place to go to, as the cliche has it. And they were riding high. They're still high, fourth in the table, Preston North End. Didn't see much evidence of that. They had a lot of football in the second half, but not an awful lot of chances, as I said with John earlier on. But we're a quarter of the season in, nearly, at the moment. We're sitting in 14th position, but we still are only 3 points behind Sunderland in 6th. Yes, there's a big pack of clubs between us and them, but it's not been a disastrous start to the season, although admittedly under Gary Rowett, the Rowett question, which was settled this week with his departure, the football has, of course, been pretty dire. I couldn't say that yesterday. It wasn't dire football yesterday, and I enjoyed watching it on TV. I'm hoping that Tuesday night's game at home to Blackburn will be also entertaining, because that's what we've all been calling for. Let's have a listen now to Matt Richards, show regular.
Nick, Matt Richards, just dialing in my thoughts about today's game. I think most people would have taken a point at the start of the game. And it was interesting to see, obviously, first game after Rowett's gone. First 5-10 minutes were just awful, weren't they? Softest goal. He just basically almost walked it, side-footed the ball into the back of the net, and we were thinking, what's going to happen now? And you're kind of looking at the players' heads, and they seem to be just looking around at each other, and it really worried me. But I think after that we dominated the first half, really, and I think I haven't seen what people are saying online, but Adamo Marku, that was his coming of age game. The pace and power he had, he was unlucky. Okay, maybe the second time he ran through and he had a shot, maybe he should have slid it through, but that shows we've got a player. We've absolutely got a player. Hope he wasn't too badly injured at the end when he came off after an hour. But this is his chance now, Nisbet injured, Watmore injured. Hopefully he'll play on Tuesday. I think he's the standout from today's game. As I say, I thought some decent stuff in the first half. Some nice passing movements with Denore, even Campbell, and Fleming. I thought Fleming actually had a good game. I mean, what a goal. Superb goal. Some good performances. I thought Wes Harding as well did well coming up from the back. He's overlapping down the right-hand side. I think lots of positives. I mean, second half was a bit of an non-entity really, but they weren't very good at all. But we stopped them playing. They're some dangerous players, but we stopped them playing. So it's Barrett is unlikely to get the job, so you can't really read too much into tactics or formations, etc. But I thought that second half of the first half gave me lots of things to feel a little bit more positive about, and we'll take a point and we'll go again on Tuesday. A bit weird for me today, so I was in the actual Preston end because I was there with my father-in-law. I couldn't get a ticket for the home end, so that was a bit weird. But and bloody hell, it was just like a library. Honestly, nobody even bloody spoke, let alone shouted or swore. Unbelievable. I don't think I'd be going to football much if I was a Preston fan. But I managed to sit on my hands when we scored the goal, and I was happy to walk away there with a smug look on my face with a point. So onwards to Tuesday. Come on your lines.
Thank you, Matt. Big well done to everyone that made it up for a pretty unfriendly kick-off time on a day where Storm Bebeto or whatever it was had done its worst, and travelling wasn't easy. So big well done to everyone, including Matt there, obviously sitting in the Preston end. That's got to be worthy of the Millwall the Millwall Award, the Millwall Cross or something like that for doing that. Nervy start. I must admit, when I put the telly on, we were 1-0 down inside a couple of minutes or whatever it was, with such a wide open goal. I thought we were in for a tonking yesterday, and that's going to be the briefest spell in charge for Adam Barrett ever. I mean, he was manager, wasn't he, between the end of Holloway, was it, and Neil Harris starting? He took it was between Harris and Rowett, wasn't it? Not that far back. It was at Rowett before Rowett came to us. He took the wings, and I remember going to see. We beat Leeds under him at the Den, and then there was a draw in there, and we went to Brentford, and I think we lost after leading there. Is that right, listeners? I haven't checked any of that, so I could be very wayward with my facts there. But I feel like I've followed Adam Barrett's managerial career quite closely through, not through any pleasure, but just it's thrust upon us. I don't know. He seems to be quite popular with the players. There were some nice words from Jake Cooper after the game yesterday talking about Adam Barrett. He's clearly, he must have absorbed, for better or for worse, a lot of stuff watching Gary Rowett and his management style. He's made the point a couple of times speaking to the club on their Twitter feed that he's his own man. He's got his own ideas. I wouldn't bet against him being a close contender. Now, I suppose a lot will depend on who else is available at what cost. But this is Millwall, listeners, and it wouldn't surprise me if Adam Barrett does get the job. But yesterday was a good start, a good opening sentence for his CV, I think, not to get beat. Probably explain some of his substitution decisions and that desire not to lose yesterday. Denor and Fleming, two quality players there, Matt. I do agree. Denor particularly, but we've mentioned him previously, so I won't overdo the Denor. Let's have a listen now to Lawrence Binney. Let's have a listen to Lawrence Binney.
Hi Nick, it's Lawrence here, long time listener, third time caller. A couple of hours after our performance against Preston, watched it on Sky, couldn't get up there. I think given the storm and the weather warnings, I'm quite pleased that I didn't make the trip. I don't really know what to make of that performance. Felt it was an absolute shambles for the first 15-20 minutes. Didn't seem to have any sort of grip on the game. Players look like they've just been told the news that Rowett had gone. And some of our frailties sort of coming home to bear a little bit at the back. We certainly miss Hutchinson, but even when Hutchinson's there, he is also prone. He's getting on a bit. Cooper is brilliant one match, terrible the next. I really like the look of what's his face, the Birmingham lad, who was playing sort of more as like a wing back today than as a centre half. He looked very composed on the ball, very progressive. Yeah, I think there were sort of shoots there. There were signs of progression. I think Barrett probably does want us to play more football on the deck, with less sort of panic, less sort of mindless hoofing. But I think we could also sort of see the imprint or the DNA of Gary Rowett in Barrett's management style, especially towards the end of that game when Preston made 5 subs, which sort of swung the game in their favour, and we didn't really have anything to counter with. I don't know why he didn't bring on Romain Esse. We don't have many options on the bench, but we have a couple there that could have turned things more in our favour, especially after Imaki went off. He was a handful today, very, very raw. A couple of bad decisions in sort of key phases of attack, but he's very much sort of reminds me of Paul Eiffel. Frustrating, but a match winner potentially. Hard to know what to make of that game. It's not really reflective of anything. You've got a caretaker in charge. Hopefully we'll know within the next week or so who's going to be taking us forward. I mean, I'm quite optimistic about some of the options that we've had proposed. Even Warnock, who I think would be a great appointment, probably a manager that we should have had a long time ago. A manager that I think the crowd would warm to. Definitely would sort of get the Den rocking again. So, yeah, we'll see. I would have taken the point before the game. It was a well-earned point. Definitely didn't deserve more than 1 point. I think either side did. And we'll see what happens. All right, cheers, Nick. Bye.
Thank you, Lawrence. The Savile question and the Romain question, the Romain Esse question, these would be two things that I would want to bring up in my job interview when Adam Barrett were to sit opposite my little panel. I'm talking about like I've got some say in it. But if I were in, James Berylson's shoes, I'd want to know what the problem is with Jules Saville, and I'd also want to know what the gig is with Romain Esse, because if the boy's scoring, internationally for England, then I would have expected to have seen him yesterday, perhaps. And if not, why not? What's the angle? If you're listening, Adam, I'd have answers lined up for those 2 points, because I would expect to be asking those if I was on the panel. As far as Brooke Norton-Cuffy was, I think, the boy that you were searching for there, Lawrence, on the wing. Yeah, I like him. He does have an erratic quality to him that, I think I said in a previous show, I can understand why Arsenal have him out on loan. That's not to knock him, because I think he may be at the limit. He certainly brings enthusiasm and willingness to run, and an inventiveness at times that is refreshing, but he is erratic in some of his decision making, and I can see why they've got him out on loan. I'm not sure he's at Arsenal's level, but at the moment that's our benefit. So Brooke Norton-Cuffy, I think, was the name you were searching for there, mate. Jim, let's have a listen to Jim Hackett now.
Hi Nick, Jim Hackett here. After watching that today, I think I've probably fallen with everybody else, and quite satisfied that before we'd have gone up there, we'd have took the point, and even after the game, I think the draw was a fair result. Terrible start, looked like we weren't at the races, but again, I think that's something we've got used to in the previous times, and all of a sudden, we seemed to play much better football, played little triangles, kept the ball well, little short passing, and ultimately ended up with a fantastic strike off Zian that went in. But before that, I think Amaku had got through and had a shot that got tipped onto the bar. He had another shot where he possibly could have passed to Bradshaw. But no, I thought we looked nice and bright in the first half. Second half, I think both sides sort of run out of steam. Our substitutions probably didn't happen, but their substitutions kept them on the front foot, and they came at us. But again, I don't think Bart had too much to do. So overall, yeah, very happy with that. I think our players today, they look like they play with a little bit more freedom. I don't know if it was just me looking at it a bit differently, but they seemed to, after they got over the first hurdle, the first 10, 15 minutes, we seemed to get the ball down. I thought Murray had an excellent game and looked good on the ball, but also looked good defending. And whatever was done or said to him, he seemed to have picked himself up. And then you've got Casper in the centre of the park. I think he's been a fantastic signing. And, I know we've lost Ladden, but I think Casper is heading that way, where he's going to become so important to us as we go through. I'm very happy with him. Very happy for Zian with his goal. And overall, I think there wasn't anybody who could come off there. I know one or two people have had a pop about Alan Campbell, but even Alan Campbell, I thought he contributed for the goal. He likes to get forward, possibly suffering a bit because he was Rowett's choice in place of Saville, but he got in again today, and he doesn't do that much wrong. I think he runs out of steam because he's always looking to push forward. But overall, very happy with the way we performed. I think after a difficult week for everybody, we now go on to Tuesday at Blackburn and see where we end up there. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because as much as we want the results, I think most people would rather have another manager than Adam Barrett staying in charge and the staff that are there. But we can only take it one game at a time. I thought Amaku looked good, and you can see him getting better and better with the experience. I think the one thing he can do, he can get away from players. He likes to run at teams and he can get away. So that's a positive until he gets kicked out of him. Tom Bradshaw again worked his knackers off. And overall, the two wing backs again did well. But the central three at the back also did well today. They limited them to a bit. I think there was one point where Preston drove forward and all the back players, all the three defenders, all backed off and allowed the lad to have a shot. But I think that was the only time they looked sort of suspect about most things. But overall, yeah, very happy with that. Norton-Cuffy, Brian did well. Bart didn't have a lot to do. His kicking's still woeful. But overall, I keep going back to it, I'm quite satisfied with that. Hopefully, no injuries. And then we can go on to Tuesday and see what happens at the Den, because I think that'll be an interesting one, because again, the one thing that we haven't had is that sort of passion that's come from the players at the Den. So let's hope we can get that going on Tuesday, and they give us another good performance. Okay, have a good weekend. Come on, you Lions.
Cheers, Jim. Thank you for that one, mate. Yeah, just a big shout out also to talk about Adam Campbell, who Jim mentioned there in his piece. I want to give a shout out to Paul Chewy Louis 0707 on Twitter. Paul says, true story. I was shouting, "Do something, Campbell, you useless cunt," only to be tapped on the shoulder. This is yesterday, and asked if I could not say that as the bloke's grandson who tapped on his shoulder. And there they were behind Paul, the whole Campbell clan. I shit you not. I still told him his shit, he says, with a laughing emoji. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the embarrassments of life, isn't it? When you're sitting in front of family members whilst giving full vent to your views and feelings. So big shout out to Paul for that. I take your point there, mate. I thought of another interview question, listeners. I'm hoping I'm either giving these to James Berylson or answers for Adam Barrett. But I would have loved to have asked Adam Barrett at the interview, the job interview, had Kevin Nisbet been fit yesterday, would he have started him over Idemo Imaku, who, as we've said, a lot of the guests on this week's show, Idemo brought a lot of energy, a lot of hunger, and as I think the way John put it, he got you out of your seat. Would he have played had Kevin Nisbet had been fully fit yesterday? And I'd make Adam Barrett put his hand on, if not the Bible, then a pile of Millwall programmes to answer that question truthfully. What do you think he would have said, listeners? I think he had started Nisbet, to be honest. Anyway, on to Matty Webb. Sevens to Matt now.
Hi, Nick. Hopefully this voice note will be a lot better than the one that I provided you on Thursday. It's Matt Webb here. Listen, I would have taken a draw before the game, especially with the chaotic scenes that we've had at the club in the last 72 hours. Preston's always a bit of a tough place to go, but to be fair, we do really well up there. We haven't lost up there for a long while. However, obviously after 3 minutes, I thought, Christ, not only is the heavens opening in the skies, I thought the heavens were going to open on the pitch. I really feared for the worst. But fair play to Millwall. They dug back in, and great goal by Zian Felmin, and that's what we like to see from him. A lot more of that. Be more consistent. Take the shackles off him and let him play. And hopefully we'll see more of that. Their goal, I'm in the camp of that's Campbell. The players literally dispossessed the ball on the halfway line, ran towards the penalty area. Campbell took a couple of steps forward to go and close him down, then decided to stop, and the chap just continued going. So he could have been the first port of call to stop that run. But then again, the defence should have done something more to prevent that guy from shooting. It wasn't a hard shot. It was a place shot, and it seemed to be in sort of slow motion that happened. But it is what it is. I'm neither pissed off or happy with the game. It is what it is. It was a 1-1 draw, and we move on. But the thing is now I want Barrett now to really put his stance in this team or in this squad. Today, I understand it was very rowdy, and I mean by the subs and obviously the instructions, it was very rowdy. And if he wants to put his hat in the ring and really wants this job, because I got a funny feeling he's going to be in charge temporarily right through to the next international break, which is middle of November, I believe, after Southampton. So he's got a run of games now to prove himself, to see whether he fancies it, and you know what, put your stance on this team, mate. Pick the players that you want to pick. You feel they could do the job. All right, not what Gary Rowett wanted to do. All right, not what the fans did. You do it. Let's see what you can do. Put your hat in the ring to be the manager if you want it. You've been here long enough now, so fuck it, why not? I am in the strong camp of having very good coaches move up into that step of being a manager. And I look at the model of Leicester City and Ipswich Town, who are, funny enough, the top two in the league. using coaches from higher clubs to manage their football teams, and even people like the Rob Edwards fella at Luton. He started off as a coach. So Gary O'Neill, another one, fine example, coach stepping up. So we should be. I feel we should follow this model. So why not, Adam Barrett? Give yourself a shouting chance. Give the board, food for thought, and see what you can bring. And you never know. You really don't know until you try it. But I really hope moving forward, like Tuesday night against Blackburn and Watford away, hopefully, we will be able to see whether he will be able to put his stance on this team and play the players that he feels warrant the starting 11. So, yeah, listen, a draw's a draw. Well done to the 696 that went up there, early doors. So I hope they get home safe through this real crap weather that we're having, and roll on Tuesday. So come on, you Lions.
Thank you, Matt. Much better, mate, sound-wise. Really, really good stuff. Really interesting thoughts on Adam Barrett, actually. It's got me thinking a little bit. I'm just wondering whether we started to see a glimmer yesterday of Adam Barrett's football, because it wasn't totally Rowett ball yesterday. It was a Rowetty team. I do take that point, Matt. But for me, and I don't know how you listeners see it, or those that are at the game, or you watched it on TV or wherever, I thought we passed the ball more cleanly, more precisely. Maybe, some said online, we may be overdoing this a little bit, but Zian looked like a lighter player, like a weight's been lifted off his shoulder. Clearly the George Savile question remains open. I take the point about Campbell. I'm not here particularly to slate Alan Campbell, because I think he must have something, must bring something to the table, but the opening goal, whether it's on his account or not, I don't know. But the Adam Barrett style, if we started to see a little bit of it yesterday, with the goal being probably what I'm hoping is the Adam Barrett style, because it was a beautiful thing to watch. Maybe if he can develop that, he does need his own unique selling point, Matt. I do agree with you there, and we're really, really going out of our way to help Adam Barrett get the job here, listeners, aren't we? We're supplying him with questions for him to prep on, and also areas to think about. I'm sure he's doing the same thing, but a style that isn't lump it into the channels and get Tom Bradshaw to chase, which we didn't see an awful lot of yesterday, thankfully, because I don't think it's the most useful employment of our resources. But I thought particularly in the first half, some of our passing moves were refreshing. So yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed. Now, whether that means Adam Barrett's going to get the job, it wouldn't surprise me, dear listeners. This is Millwall at the end of the day, and he's in 9/10 of the law is possession, isn't it? And he's in place at the moment. We'll see. Anyway, we're going to close today's voicemail section with our regular caller, Ben Anthony. Let's have a listen to Ben.
Hello, Nick. Hello, listeners. Ben Anthony here, calling in on Saturday evening. Been a bit busy today, so not had any time to call in after the early kickoff today. But yeah, a 1-1 draw away at Preston, I think, was a decent result for our first game post sort of Rowett era. I think most of us would have taken a point before kickoff. So yeah, can't complain too much about that. I think there were a few positives today. Imaku, obviously, I think he played really well. He has mistakes in him. He shows that that bit of youth, sort of inexperience every now and again, but on the whole, positive, and he wants to get forward and he wants to make a difference in this team. And I was quite impressed by him. Hopefully it was just a bit of cramp that saw him come off, and no injury problem. I thought Fleming, his goal was outstanding, and he grew into the game. I was worried initially that he was going to be anonymous again, but he actually grew into the game and had a real presence. And it was an effective role. That number 10 position for him was effective today. So I was impressed by him. And I thought the defence looked ropey at the start. I thought we were banging trouble. They were able to run straight through him. But after the equaliser, they seemed to build into the game and develop a little bit of confidence, maybe. I don't know what it is that's been stopping them recently, but I thought Harding and I thought Wallace actually played pretty well alongside Cooper. So that was good. I was pleased with that. And yeah, it was a bit disappointing that, first of all, the way we started, it was a concern. They could have been 3-0 up comfortably after about 10 minutes. And we were a little bit fortunate to get the equaliser. However, once we did, the rest of that first half, I thought we were in a great place to go on and win it. And it just needed a bit of bravery. At half time, they just needed to be a bit brave and push forward and try and get something from it. But we didn't. The second half was a little bit of a non-event, pretty quiet for me, really. And I would have liked to see those trusted players. You know, there's players that I think we can trust going forward, or helping go forward a bit more. The essays and even the George Saville kind of influence in there, I think could have been a positive change, but the subs were a little bit bland, and the tactics seemed to suggest that we were just happy to settle for a point, which is a little bit, dare I say, a little bit rowity. But there you go. We got the point and you know, a decent result, and we go on to Tuesday against Blackburn, hopefully with a positive performance to look forward to at the Den. But we wait and see. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on that one. Thanks. See you later.
Big thank you, Ben. Rowity, yes, that's the second time Matt's used the word, and now Ben's used it. I'd take the point. It would be nice from the Adam Barrett point of view. We're really trying to help him on his job interview here. It's like when you know, youngsters go along to Barclays Bank and they've paid for them to get a new suit clean and get their hair cut, and they give them, you know, prep points, things to say in the interview. That's what we're trying to do with Adam Barrett, it seems. It was a most unexpected turn of the show. I certainly didn't start out this little section with the expectation I was going to be giving, you know, assistance to Adam Barrett. But will we at some point be saying that was a Barretty performance in a positive way? Let's wait and see, dear listeners. Anyway, that's this edition. Millwall drawing at Preston yesterday. On to Tuesday night, Blackburn Rovers. I'll be down the Den for that one. But we can't close without our second pundit question. This is a hard one. They have a Football League section that is really tough, in my opinion. So I thought, you know, we've done the World Cup one already, the glamour of the Brazilian World Cup, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to give you a Football League question. I will give you the answer straight after it, because I had not got a clue on this one. But see if you can get this one. Punditgames.co.uk. Pundit is the #1 quiz game. So here we go. It's a Football League question. This is a Carlisle paid a club record fee to Blackburn in 2007 for this player. Just one season later, Carlisle received almost 10 times what they paid for him when Nottingham Forest came a-knocking. He never settled in at the City Ground, but refound some form at Preston in 2013, and he also played at Glasgow Rangers in 2016. So just looking at his career, from Carlisle to Forest in 2008 to 2011 at Forest, 48 appearances and 9 goals. Couple of loans, Huddersfield, Scunthorpe, then eventually in 2013 back to Preston, 129 appearances and 49 goals for Preston, before spells at Rangers, Ipswich, Wigan in 2018 to 20, and then abroad to Apoel, and finally to Fleetwood Town, where he finished his career 2021. He might even be playing there still now. 2021, 18 appearances, 4 goals. So we're talking about primarily a Forest and then a Preston player in the 2010 to 2016 era. If you haven't got it already, you may never get it. I would probably die wondering who it is. The name of the player is Joe Garner. Joe Garner. That's punditgames.co.uk. #1 football quiz game. Get it for Christmas. Thank you for listening, dear listeners. Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Achtung, Millwall.